Cravings. We all get them. Welcome to the Cravings Masterclass, where I'm going to show y'all how to deal with your cravings, but also how not to necessarily feel guilty. So, therefore, you still allow yourself to have some of your favorite foods every once in a while. That way, they don't get in the way or interfere with our weight loss. What's covered in this training? Hunger. What is it? The hunger hormones, what foods make us more hungry, and what foods make us full. We're going to identify your triggers. We're going to talk about how we can organize our food environment to help. We'll talk about what questions we can ask ourselves. We'll give you some pro tips. And then as a bonus, we'll go ahead and give you some sweet tooth recipes. And just a reminder, guys, it's best to eat these things at night just because they will raise your insulin. And generally, they're going to make you feel tired. So it'll actually be a really good thing to have at night. I wouldn't recommend to have any of these sweet tooth recipes for breakfast or lunch or even dinner, if that makes sense. Okay, let's delve in. Hunger, what is it? Okay, well, first we have to identify if we're actually hungry. Most of the time, we could be bored, we could be frustrated, angry, stressed, overwhelmed, etc. I want y'all to identify what times you're hungry at, because you're most likely going to feel hungry at the same time daily. So whether that is breakfast, lunch, dinner, figure that out. This is why it's important to eat as close to your eating schedule as possible. The reason why this is, guys, is because your body loves and recognizes consistency. And so if you're consistently having breakfast at 7 a.m., well, it makes a lot of sense why you would actually feel hungry at 7 a.m. Same thing for lunch. Like if you start eating lunch at 12, well, it's no wonder why you're starting to feel hungry at 12. Identify what foods fill your body up and which ones do not. I don't think most of us are conscious of this. And so therefore, if we actually take a step back and ask ourselves, does this food actually provide a feeling of fullness, or am I starving? You'll actually learn a lot about what foods actually work for your body type. And that's super important. Okay, cool. What are the hunger hormones? We have leptin and we have ghrelin. These are the two hunger hormones that we're going to talk about. They're important to understand because there is certain foods that will trigger more leptin and certain foods that will also trigger more ghrelin. So leptin is the hunger hormone that basically tells your brain that you're full and you have enough fat stored. And ghrelin's the opposite. It's the hunger hormone that tells your brain that you're hungry and that you do not have enough fat stored. Okay, insulin. This is really important, guys, because insulin's correlated with energy. Okay, this is the key hormone responsible for fat storage. So what happens, guys, is insulin gets released from the pancreas, and then which triggers your blood sugar to come up or down. And then insulin will be in your blood at this point, and it'll get shuttled into your liver and muscle cells, which is why I tell you guys to have a pre-workout snack that has carbs, because carbs are actually directly correlated to resistance training. And this is what happens is insulin will get in the blood and then it'll go into the liver muscle cells for working out. But anything excess, in other words, if we're not exercising, we're more sedentary because our work's more sedentary, maybe we're super busy because we were behind the desk all day and we're tired, a lot of that insulin will actually get shuttled into adipose tissue or stored as fat, which is the same thing. Which is why it's very important that we follow as closely as possible, again, the foods that we agree with, okay? And then cortisol is your stress hormone. And this is important because cortisol directly is related to your macronutrients. So directly related to how we use fats, carbs, and proteins. Cool. What makes us full? Okay, this is super simple, guys. Foods that are airy with less calorie density. So what do I mean by this? Okay, well, this means that there's a low amount of calories for its weight. So I like to use the example of a chocolate bar because a chocolate bar is very light, but there's a lot of calories in chocolate. Whereas a piece of fish is also light, but it has less calories than a chocolate bar. So that's kind of what calorie density means. And so foods that have less calorie density will actually make us feel more full. Veggies, this is because they have a lot of fiber. And I recommend putting about half your plate being vegetables, especially for lunch. Fibrous foods, so these are some ones that are examples. So beans like black beans, pinto beans, kidney beans, lentils, oats, quinoa, avocado, berries, wheat pasta. All of these things will be really good to implement in your plating system or in some of your recipes because it'll help us feel full. Protein, this is the most filling macronutrient. And then complex carbs such as potatoes, which actually are the most filling food according to the satiating index, or sorry, the satiety index. And you guys can look that up, and it'll give you basically a bunch of foods that will be super filling. Also, just want to add fruits here like bananas and apples and grapes. Those are really good too. What foods make us hungry? These are mainly processed foods such as carbs and simple sugars. So like cereal, white rice, white pastas, white breads, muffins, things like that. Fast food, food cooked in seed oils, and then foods high in sodium, such as like TV dinners. So just keep in mind, guys, if you're struggling to get in enough or you can't reach your calorie goal, for instance, sometimes a hack would be like having some cereal. So therefore, because you know that that's going to go to your blood very quickly, which means it's going to be faster digesting. So processed foods are faster digesting than complex foods. And so if you're having trouble meeting your calories because it's just such a high amount of calories and you're not used to it, sometimes using something like oatmeal or cereal will get you more hungry before having a larger meal. Could be a little hack to get you there. All right, guys, identifying your triggers, super important. Are we bored? Are we stressed? Are we overwhelmed? Are we watching TV? Are we in the car? Are we in bed? Are you on your computer, your phone? Or are you with friends? Is it the morning, afternoon, or night? Just really understanding where your triggers are coming from is going to help us start to rearrange your environment. So therefore, we're able to control some of these cravings. So that leads me to food environment. Out of sight, out of mind. So basically just means removing any foods that you feel will tempt you or trigger you to want to have them, right? So for instance, if I love Reese's cups, and let's say that the first thing I open up in my freezer and I see frozen Reese's cups, I'm for sure going to grab them, right? They're right there in front of me. So in order for us to start having healthier foods, what I'd recommend is get like a bowl of like fruit. So when you walk in, the first thing you see is like a bowl of fruit. And then obviously then talking a little bit here, kind of skipping, but organizing your fridge. I'll get there to a second. Buy smaller options or pre-portioned options. I'm kind of talking about nuts here. So almonds are a really good example because there's always going to be some pre-portioned almond packets that you can buy. Same thing with like certain like dried fruits, things like that. If you want to implement that in like trail mix and whatnot, yogurts. So like they have cups and things like that that are just super easy, obviously to have. Oatmeal packets are obviously again pre-portioned, but just thinking about ingredients or foods that are pre-portioned. Set a limit on how many times you're going to allow yourself to buy your pleasure foods, like per month or per quarter. So let's give that example. If I love my Reese's cups, then maybe I'm only purchasing them, or I'm going to allow myself to purchase them at least once a month, or let's say 4 times a quarter. Keep healthier foods in plain view. So like I mentioned, the bowl of fruit. Organize your fridge. This is really important, guys. So basically, the more obvious the food is, basically we're going to be eating it, right? So your vegetables on top, meats in the middle, dairy on the sides, and just make sure that the healthy foods you have are right there in front of you, right? And also too, I would also add in meal prep. So make sure your meal prep's really, you can see it with the eye. So therefore you're able to, remind yourself that you have to eat your meal prep. So keep your unhealthy foods hard to reach places. So let's just an example, Twinkies. Like you obviously keep the Twinkies, let's say, in like a crazy high cabinet where you literally have to have a lot of effort to get. The more effort something is, we're not going to do it. Okay, the least effort something is, we will do it. Set up cues to remind yourself of your goals. So I like to use the accountability mirror here. So like having sticky notes of like where you are in your fat loss journey, your affirmations, maybe some goals. Maybe you wanted to, feel confident by the pool on your Disney cruise this summer. Some cues that will basically, remind you of these. I like to also give you guys the example of always having your gym bag in plain view, your running shoes in plain view. So therefore it reminds you to go to the gym. And then lastly, set up guardrails for how many times you allow yourself to go to the restaurants that you love. So like, again, like allowing yourself to, choose one restaurant that you really love. Let's say it's sushi and you want to do that at least once a month as a date, whatever that is. Question asking. This is super good, guys. Anytime that you're about to, maybe indulge in some pizza or whatever it is, stop and ask yourself some of these questions. And I will bet that you'll probably reverse what you're about to do. Maybe stop eating even, or maybe not eat as much. So is this in alignment with my goals? How will I feel after eating this? Will this help me build muscle? For those that want to build muscle, can I stop after one? Can I control myself? Where am I? Who am I with? What am I doing? Is this going to bring me one step forward or one step back? These are some really good questions to ask when we're about to just, we're about to just break, and we're about to do it. That's one thing that I would say is good. Okay, cool. Some pro tips just to add on. I think this will be helpful. Staying busy is really helpful. So things like family time, walking, running, sports, reading, and other hobbies that you may have. Drink seltzer waters. LaCroix or Bubbly is really good. And then sparkling ice drinks. I freaking love these things. Also really good for like a sweet tooth. Zevia sodas. This is a sugar-free soda with stevia. They're really good. They have like cream soda, root beer, and things like that, and cola. It's good stuff. Diet sodas. I would still limit these as much as we can, but I would still, having one diet soda a day is not going to kill you. And a lot of the kind of contrary around like diet soda is really not that bad for you. So just keep that in mind. Watermelon's really, really light and low calories. So you can have like a pound of that stuff. Same thing with strawberries, and you won't go over your calories. Eat a lot of fiber, so such as obviously vegetables and the fibrous foods I mentioned above. Bigger portions of protein. Add healthy fats into your salads, protein in your protein shakes. So like avocado, nut butters, healthy oils, seeds, and nuts. You can always add these into your protein shakes, your oatmeal, your Greek yogurt, your salads. Get creative. Either have a big breakfast or a big dinner, and this depends. So obviously, if you're not necessarily if you're not working at home and you're in a crunch and you're really busy in the morning, then obviously having a smaller breakfast might be the move, and having a bigger dinner. But vice versa, if you do work at home, sometimes if you're starving waking up, a good thing to do is actually have a massive breakfast, which will actually carry you over until lunch, where you have a moderate lunch and then you have like a moderate dinner. And this is just placing basically the bigger meals and just kind of experimenting with what works best for you. Chewing gum's really good. Half your plate should be vegetables. If you're really, really hungry, that's a good thing to do. Doesn't mean that all your plates have to be, half vegetables, and then avoid processed foods. And then here's some just sweet tooth recipes as a bonus, guys. You can go and click these links and those links and check them out. Hope this was helpful. And yeah,